So there's one thing that most photographers get wrong, including me. And in this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips that will help you solve it. And I guarantee it'll improve your photos. I'm here with Pebbles as well. Oh, morning everybody. I am so excited this morning because I'm in my favourite woodland and the conditions are pretty good, I think. There's a little bit of fog hanging around. The colours are nice, the bracken just looks so beautiful. It's literally about 20 minutes before sunrise at the moment, so it's pretty dark. And we're talking all about this one thing that I always used to get wrong in photography, and I still see a lot of photographers get it wrong. On my workshops, it's something that I always point out, and it's quite a tricky thing to fix, but I'm going to give you 3 ways of fixing it. So we'll just go a little bit further down here and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Okay, so let's have a chat about that one thing that we all get wrong. And that's when we get to location, we're really keen, we really want to get the photo, and rather than observing, rather than looking around, we just take our camera bag off, we get our camera out of our camera bag, and we just start taking photos. And we don't look around, we don't observe. And I'm going to give you 3 tips that are going to help you do this. Okay, the first point that I want to get onto, you can start as soon as you get to your location and start walking and looking for a composition. And that's just observation. It's just trying to understand things within the landscape that you're walking through. This isn't so much about a particular composition, but it's just, looking at things that might be in a composition. How's the light hitting the trees? Does it change the shape of them? Is the light better in one direction than the other direction? The ferns, do they lay a certain way and does that look good? You're going to be walking through lots of types of foliage and trees that you might be photographing. It's the same when you're in a big vista. How's the light hitting the land? Is there a change in that light? So you often in landscape photography have maybe 30 minutes, an hour. It's a little bit more difficult at sunrise than it is at sunset, but you have time to observe the landscape as you're walking to location. So use that time effectively, make the most of it, because there's so many things that you will see if you just try and look and sort of stay in that moment, that will really help you when you come to the location and start looking for that composition. And we'll get onto that in a minute. I'm going to walk down here. It's looking good. There's not a lot of mist, but oh my word, the colours are just so amazing. Right. Keep observing. Keep observing. Are you observing, Pebbles? Are you looking around? Yep, well done. High five. Nope. Just left me hanging. So I've just been walking through here, and one thing I've observed is that the light looks better in this direction. So you can see here there's some nice colours in the ferns. The ferns are laying different, so the wind's blowing them different when I look in that direction as well. So even though I'm walking in that direction, I need to make sure that I'm observing all the way around me. I'm looking all the way around me just to see if I can see something. Because actually this little scene here with this tree hanging down, there's quite a nice little shot going through there. I'm also observing that the wind is getting up, which is not good because it's going to get rid of all the fog. I've got to quite an interesting area here where there's sort of 2 types of trees really. Well, there's a silver birch that you can see here on the left of me. And I'm quite interested in these silver birch. I think they look good, the right of the camera. I think these look really interesting. And then I've got these older sort of oak trees here, these really interesting oak trees that have got a lot of character. And it's about then trying to see if I can simplify it a little bit, because there's the obvious thing is trying to include both of them. But the better thing might be just to try and separate them out a little bit. So is there something just with the oak trees? Can I just, create them as a character? And what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to think about when I'm looking at this is, what are the patterns like? Is there any repeating patterns? Are there any colours that work together? Are there any textures that work together? There's certainly some interest in the silver birch. The problem with this side is, as you can see, that there's a lot of sky in it, and that's going to detract from the silver birch. So if I'm just going to take these silver birch, I'm going to have to find a spot to take them that's shooting down into the valley a little bit so that they've got foliage and trees behind them. These oak are a little bit easier, I think, because they're down in this valley already and they're going to make it easier to take a photo. But the colour's not as good on those. And so now, what I'm thinking is, how can I sort of fine tune it? I'm getting to the next stage, really. I'm still observing, I'm still trying to look at everything, not try and focus just too much on just one thing. And the one thing I'm not going to do at this point is get my camera out. And that's so important. You've got to leave your camera in the bag. At this observation stage, you really can't observe with your camera. As soon as you get your camera out, you start thinking about settings, you start just looking through that camera, and that narrows your vision. So leave your camera in the bag. Really, really important at this point. Okay. Right, I think there might be a shot down here. So I'm going to go for the oaks and I'm going to focus in on those. So we'll go and have a look. Pebbles down here, shall we, and see what we can see. I'm not going to touch my camera. I'm just going to see if I can find a shot with these oaks in. Okay, so I've come round. I was over there before and I've come and moved round. From what I was just saying on that path, I just wanted to try a different angle on it where the light's just coming in from sort of this direction. I think that helps a little bit. I really like these two trees and I like these ferns in the front here. I like that bit of old oak tree branch there that's sort of broken. That looks really, really interesting. So I think, we'll probably move into the second part here, and this is trying to find that composition. And what we're trying to do when we find that composition, we found something that looks good, we think, okay, that's probably not a bad scene. Is there anything that I can do to improve it? So what I try and do is I try and work from the foreground through the scene. So in the foreground, are these ferns any good? Are they going to add to the scene? And actually looking at this, I'm not sure they are really. So maybe I just need to go a little bit over these dead ferns here and go a little bit further into the scene. There's a nice fern coming here which could go onto the trunk of the oak tree there. And so that's looking quite interesting. So maybe at this point I might start to get my phone out. I don't get my camera out, my camera's still in the bag. And in my phone, I'm then sort of looking around. So I'm just going to start to look around through my phone and think, this was the scene that I had. I've got this silver birch on the left and then these two trees here. And then what I want to try and do is think, is that going to make a good shot? And I think I can't go too far left because there's a lot of sky there. And I think that's probably not too bad. I've got a little bit of an issue sort of down here, which I don't really like. And then this isn't fantastic foreground really. And this fern here is just catching the light a bit strange. So I don't think this is a fantastic shot. Maybe if I go a bit higher, it works a little bit better. It does, so you can see as soon as I go higher, that improves the scene compared to that. So I'm starting to try and see if I can find a composition, but still not getting my camera out. And actually, you could do this with your camera handheld, but I find it better with my phone. Okay, that was an okay shot. It wasn't too bad, but I want to move on. I feel like there's going to be something better. One of the things that I've noticed is that the foliage, we're at the beginning of November now, but we're really late in terms of the colour changes, and the oak trees are still very green, and I feel like green, where it's just really green, just is a bit, doesn't really go with the rest of some of the much nicer foliage around here. The silver birch have lost all their leaves pretty much, but there are a few that have still captured it. So I'm going to keep walking around and see if I can capture a little bit more of that colour, because I feel like that's what I want to do. I feel that these oak trees are just a bit green at the moment. So I'm not just thinking about stopping and just spending a lot of time taking a shot. You know, I spent 5 minutes there, moving on. I want to spend the majority of my time really fine-tuning a brilliant shot rather than taking 10 average shots. Okay, I found something here that I think is really interesting. In fact, there's two shots that are really interesting. There's one here and there's one here. I was just talking about those green oak trees and how the silver birch have lost all the leaves, but the oak trees are still very green. And then I can tell that story in a shot here. I've got this amazing oak tree that sort of curves over this dead sort of silver, well, not this dead, this leafless silver birch in the background, some beautiful colour, this other silver birch here, and I've got another one here. And whilst we're on to that second point, I'm just going to get my phone out again. And that second point, if you remember, is all about just trying to piece together the elements, you know, look at the foreground, the midground, the background. As you're starting to see something, you might have a glimpse of an idea, like I've just seen here. What you want to do is not just rush to take it, not put your camera on the tripod, but just take your time taking it and setting it up. And again, what I like to do is use my phone. So in this particular example, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch onto video, and I've got these two things. I've seen a composition there which I think looks pretty good, and if I just zoom in about there, I think, but what I want to do is, that's pretty good, but I want to be careful about all these little things like these bits of fern here. I'm going to do the final bits of fine-tuning when I get my camera out, but for now I just want to walk around with my phone and see, you know, if I move down there, does that make a difference? If I go up here, does that make a difference? You know, where do I want this tree to be? You can see that that sort of connects them together a little bit more and brings in this tree behind here. Whereas down here, if we go down here, you can see that that separates these silver birch and that oak, and they're not as connected. They're more in sort of lines together, which I don't think looks as good really. So I think up there looks better. And then if we look at this scene, because there's another one here, then you can see that I think this is an easier scene than that, in that, you know, it is going to make a difference moving around. I've just got to get the separation between that silver birch and the oak tree right. And I don't want them to be too separated. And I want this silver birch down here to be pointed at by this tree. You know, there's two shots here, and I've got a little bit more information about how I want to take them. I can then get my camera out, and but when I get my camera out, I'm not going to put it on the tripod. I'm just going to hold it, do the same with my camera, think about roughly where it's going to go, then get my tripod out and put it on the tripod. This is beautiful. This is so good. This is good pebbles, isn't it? Oh. Point 3 is that when you've set it up, you've got it in the right place, you've put it on your tripod, then just take your time. So think about all the edges. So for instance, in this shot here, you know, I've just got to think, okay, if I just zoom out a little bit, I don't want that bit of light up there. There's a branch that's a little bit distracting coming in from the side here, so I might be able to just get rid of that a little bit just by zooming in. I don't mind a bit of it, so I want it about there. And then just look all the way around the edges. And I'll show this again, I'm going to do some more compositions, and I'll show this again on some other shots. But just taking your time and looking around it is that third point really, and that will really make a difference. And I'm going to go into a few other little tidbits around these points in the next few images. If you like this video so far, then make sure you give it a thumbs up. It really helps this video, and I massively appreciate it as well. And also, if you're not subscribed, if you are, thanks. If you're not, then please consider subscribing, because again, it really helps the channel. Okay, let's see what else we can find. I'm going to take this shot on the right. It's a pretty simple one, this other one. I'll show you these two shots, and we'll see what else we can find. God, I love the woodland. It's so peaceful, so beautiful. Being here with Pebbles is amazing. This is amazing. Okay, I've seen something which is quite interesting here. So I've got these ferns that are sort of going this direction, sort of pointing into the scene, leading your eye into this scene. This is a really nice tree. It's just again got some of the leaves left on this really old silver birch, gnarly silver birch, and then there's some silver birch in the background that sort of give it a little bit of depth, a bit of layering. I think the problem is, and what I'm trying to sort of get my head around, and I've been wandering around a little bit, wondering about how I can deal with this bit in the middle. So this bit in the middle is bugging me, because I just can't connect these two things together. And again, by observing, by not just putting my camera on its tripod and just thinking about it, and trying to sort of piece these things together, think, okay, how does my eye, and this is the second point again, how does your eye go through the scene? So how does my eye go through from these ferns to this silver birch, which works really well, to those other silver birch? And it has to go across this gap here, and I feel like that's a little bit of a barrier. What do you think, Pebbles? Any ideas? You're just bouncing, aren't you? But I really think there's something here. So maybe, actually come in here, maybe I can shoot just sort of down there. Okay, so me and Pebbles thinks by moving around a little bit on this scene that I just said we need to move on, we might have found something. So just let me show you this. There's a really nice scene down here. I've got that same gnarly sort of silver birch, and there's part of it that's quite dark, but I've managed to cover that part that's dark with this bit of fern here. And then what's really nice, you've got a bit of depth to it, because I've got this other silver birch in the background, and because we've still got a little bit of mist. The ferns here are all brown, which is a bit of a shame, because it'd be nice to pick out some yellows and greens. But I like this, I think this is quite good. So I'm going to take this, again, I'm just being really careful about the edges. So I'm going to look around the edges. This is 0.3, I just need to check everything, all the edges. You know, is everything balanced right? I don't want to get back to Lightroom, which you often do, and think, oh, I wish I'd just moved left a bit or up a bit. Pebbles. You can do the stepping stones, Pebbles. So I've just come down into the valley. There's a little bit of a valley here, and just to see what I can find down here and see if I can find some ferns that might have not changed colour yet. I found these really nice grasses which look fantastic, and it's just started to rain, which is always better because you want wet foliage. It just looks so much better. Catches the light differently, and I've already noticed that the ferns with a little bit of water on them, a little bit of dampness, just start to look a little bit better. But yeah, getting back to that first point, I'm trying to get away from taking photos again and just trying to observe my surroundings. I really like these grasses. There's a temptation to think, oh, the grasses are nice, I want to take a picture of the grasses, but I can't really see anything where they fit in, where it's just quite simple. So I'm just continuing, seeing what I can find. I think the thing in my mind, the thing that I've seen the most as I've walked around is just as little bits of silver birch that have just kept their leaves a little bit. And if I can get one of those and just isolate it a little bit, I think it could just be quite a nice little composition. So I've put my longer lens on. I've got my 70-200 lens on. Oh, I love this. Just love it. It's great, isn't it, Pebs? Ah, there's a little bit of a stream here, which is nice as well. Come on. Okay, so I was just walking down here and saw a little scene here, and I set my camera up, so I just want to show you. So I've been trying to capture some of the silver birch with some of the leaves on, and there's just a little set of silver birch, but you could easily miss them. So if I just turn my camera around, Pebbles has got her eye on them. So they're just over here. And I've got my long lens on. If I just sort of go a bit closer, you'll see what I mean. So basically what I've done is I've got my long lens on, and I've just sort of focused in on these silver birch here. Quite nice. I think there's going to be a couple of compositions. There's a really tight one in here, and then if I go out a little bit, you can see that I've got this silver birch here on the right hand side, this broken silver birch, and then this set of silver birch here. I'm obviously going to cut the sky off, but I need to go probably about there. I cut a little bit of the floor off and a bit of the sky off. And obviously I was observing everything. Up to this point, I've seen that that's the type of shot that I feel that will work best, so I'm now looking out for it a little bit more. I've sort of narrowed my vision a little bit, but not too much that I'm going to miss other opportunities. But those silver birch, I think, are what's going to look best. The good thing with this as well is that their light's coming from the side, so it's giving them a little bit of shape. It's a bit tricky because there's an oak tree here, so you can see that there's this oak tree that I've just got to be a little bit careful of, but no, I think this looks really good. I'm really pleased with it. Okay, that special tip, the secret to everything. If you're struggling, if you can't see something, an apple. It's the secret to everything. If you have an apple, you just sit, eat your apple, and just look around. I'm not just joking, I guarantee you'll find something, you'll see something, you'll spot something, you'll maybe see light just differently on a tree, or maybe there'll just be some composition that might just jump out at you. So whether you're just walking somewhere, or you found an area you think there should be a composition but you can't quite find it, just stop, take your time, have an apple, and all will become clear.
Gravel road, I've been asked to slow down. Fireplace, do you know how? Piles of paper, my desk is out.